Well, hi, everybody. This is Rick Moore, co-founder at BidPoint, and I've got with me the founder of Avion Energy, Mr. Joe Mitiga. And we're going to talk a little bit today about kind of laying down a foundation for your business, and Joe's going to share a story about how Avion got started and then talk about where BidPoint is kind of relative to that. So, Joe, I appreciate you being on the call today, and happy 2017.
Great. Thank you, Rick. I appreciate having the opportunity to be on the call today. I love sharing the Avion story, and it's a great one to be able to participate with. And it's kind of interesting as I thought about what I wanted to share on the call today. And again, thanks for inviting me on. I really want to help everybody, anybody. It doesn't matter if you're brand new or been around us a little while. I want everyone to kind of know that everybody who gets started in this type of business opportunity starts at the same spot. And quite honestly, I myself personally was in the exact spot where a brand new person listening to the BidPoint opportunity for the very first time, maybe this is their first exposure, I was sitting where they're sitting, Rick, 7 years ago, quite honestly. And I was in the process at that point of evaluating a business opportunity. The difference is when I was evaluating it, it didn't even exist yet. And that's kind of the Avion story. I had been involved with a couple different companies, one in the residential world, which today is $1 billion company and doing, a lot of great things in the one-price residential world. But then I was introduced to a company that was saying they could really help the consumers in the commercial energy space. And what I learned in a very, very short order of time is that this particular company, who no longer exists, they were saying one thing and doing something else, and they were doing the best they could, but the bottom line, they just did not have a system, and they didn't have the relationships necessary to really be able to satisfy the needs of a consumer, especially on the commercial side. So, long story short, I was involved with that company, and I had the experience in the networking world and had built companies in the past, but typically everything I'd built in the past, Rick, as you know, was more on the consumer side of things. It was more of a retail product. And, what excited me about the commercial energy space was the idea that one client could really create a significant amount of money. Now, of course, 7 years ago when we got started, and the company I was with at the time, they didn't tell us that there was competition out there. They didn't tell us they only had a few relationships. They didn't tell us a lot. We kind of figured that out on the fly, and quite honestly, that company's, their lack of success wasn't for the lack of trying and wasn't for the lack of, of them being good people or not. It was just they didn't have an engine in place. They didn't have a system in place. So long story short, I had to part ways with that company. I'm literally on a phone call with somebody, and they said, Joe, you need to start your own. And my immediate reaction, I'll never forget, it was like, Jerry, start my own what? This man's name was Jerry. He says, Joe, you need to start your own company. And it was from that thought right there, and that conversation right there, that back in July of 2010, Avion was born. July the 4th, I resigned from the previous company. July the 7th was our first day in business. And July 10th was the day we received our business license. So, here we are, fast forward 6.5 years later, and people say, well, gosh, Joe, how were you in the same place? Well, bottom line, if you're brand new and you're listening to this call for the very first time, July the 7th in 2010, I was it. I was my own company. I was the guy. I had no clients. I had no field agents. Now, of course, back then I had no company, had no relationships, didn't have the rest of it, but I was sitting where the new field agent is sitting today. And I had to evaluate it, and I had to kind of figure it out. And what we did is honestly quite remarkable. in those beginning days, basically, Rick, what I did is I went out and I started having two conversations. I had conversations with consumers, and I said to them, you know what? We're going to do the best we can to find you a good price. We couldn't offer a lot, but we would do the best we could. But more importantly, quite honestly, Rick, in the beginning, my main conversation was about who did they know that would like to create a residual income, a real long-term income. At the time, my oldest son, who now is 10, was 3.5, and, I had the same concerns that most people did. How was I going to provide, food for my family and long-term retirement? And, my one passion in life was that I wanted my son's college education, which back then was 15, 16 years away, but I wanted his college education to be based on his abilities and desires, not based on Dad's bank account. And that was a real passion for me. So if you're sitting here new and you're brand new at BidPoint and you're thinking about it and you're looking, really one huge thing I suggest for everybody, Rick, is to figure out your why. I mean, why are you here? What do you really want to accomplish? And you can't just say, I want to build a business. You need to identify what it is you're going to do as your business grows. And that was a huge passion for me, the education for my son Joseph. Now I have 2 children, and I am happy to say that is not a concern of mine anymore. And it's not because as I was having that conversation, Rick, about who did they know that wanted to build a business and who did they know that wanted to potentially save energy, cost on their energy, we were also having to put together the business called Avion Energy. It didn't exist. The third conversation I had 5 or 6 right in the beginning. 3 of my closest friends said, gosh, Joe, no, not interested, good luck. A couple of my friends said, no, not interested, Joe, you're crazy. 2 of my friends out of the first 8 I talked to said, 3 of them actually, said, Joe, I'm interested and I'm in. Jim Sharon, our CEO, was one of those conversations. And Jim and I have been working and building Avion from day one. Jim came to us about 60 days in, and another was with a man named Tom Baldoni, who is still our graphic designer today. And basically, in the very beginning, Rick, what we did is I wanted a website that had the Avion logo, the Avion message on it, that people could go to the website, have a feel-good feeling, and leave the website. And that's all we had. And that was it. So as I was out there having conversations about, who do you know that wanted to create income and who do you know that wanted to save money on their energy, we had to build the company. We had to literally put the pieces of it together. And in our first 6 months, I was sharing with you, Rick, the other day, some of the numbers that we accomplished in our very first 6 months in business. In our first 6 months, Rick, we put about 280 some odd field agents in our business with that same message, what do you have to lose, $21 a month, no money down, there's no upfront fee, come build a long-term residual income with us. And, we just had that conversation over and over and over. And people started to follow, and people really did. They moved in with us. Now, interestingly enough, at that point in time, at the end of 6 months, a major portion of my efforts were in the creation of the relationships with the providers. Today, we have close to 80, well in excess of 70, 75 relationships. After that first 6 months in business, Rick, we had 20 relationships. And why did that make a difference? The next numbers are the numbers that were really quite outstanding or astounding. Back in the day, in the beginning days, we had over 350 requests for pricing. And out of that 350, we only signed 35 contracts. In other words, 1 out of 10 contracts were signed. And why is that? The reason it was because back then we couldn't offer the message of best pricing like we can today. Back then, in those beginning days, we were no different than the company that went out of business because if you couldn't offer to the consumer a complete overview of all the pricing in the industry, you were just like every other broker. Well, quite honestly, at that point, we never had any intentions of stopping at 20 providers. I did not realize at that point we would get to 80, but I did have the mindset that says, you know what, we're going to keep creating those relationships no matter how long it takes, because someday we want to be able to offer the message of best pricing. Well, that someday happened about month 27 or 28, Rick. We actually created the relationship with Constellation. They were the #1 provider in the country at the time. At that point, we had the majority of all of the large providers. And at the end of year 2, we went from, under 300 field agents to close to 900 field agents. And why is that? This is not a consumer-based, retail-based product that you can immediately talk to somebody about and they go spend $40. It's not that type of product. This is a product and a service that takes some time to learn. The end user consumers are typically on the larger scale. A very small bill or a small customer in our world is spending $5,000, $10,000 a month. We literally have customers that will spend $1 million a month in energy spend. So if you're the field agent trying to explain that and get in front of those people, it takes more time. But what happened was, from year 1 to year 2, we had a group of people that just stuck with it. They stuck with us. They had faith in us. We had faith in them. And they learned what they were doing. So the conversations weren't just Joe and Jim out there having those conversations. We went to a group of about 30 or 40 people having those conversations, which literally 3 times our business in just that second year. And honestly, the most impressive number from my perspective isn't necessarily the field agent growth, but it was the percentage of clients we actually acquired based on the number of RFPs. And in year number 2, we actually had 692 RFPs, requests for pricing, and close to 400 of those turned into clients. In other words, our client base grew by 10-fold, but the percentage of clients we acquired went from 1 out of 10 to 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10. And that was a huge advantage for us. I could go in and amongst the numbers with you, Rick, but let me just fast forward now 5 years later. So if you're the brand new person on the phone today, if you're looking at us for the very first time, or if you're somebody that, quite honestly, new in this industry, Rick, is if you've been with us less than 6 months. If you have less than 10 clients, if you've got a team less than 20, you're new. Bottom line, you're new. And what you're going to find is the longer you're around it and the more you really figure it out, the more exciting it's going to become. It just is. Because unlike way back when I started, and I started having those conversations, everything we talked about at the time, Rick, was about we were hoping we were going to get another client. We were hoping we were going to build our field agents. We were hoping someday we'd have technology and able to scale, and everything was a hope, and everything was a dream. But today, Rick, it's just not that way. 7 years into it, we've got patent pending on our technology. We've got relationships with 70-plus suppliers. We have the marketing that says we offer best pricing. We have a field agent leadership. Back in the day, leadership in the field, I was playing multiple hats, and the field, quite honestly, was on its own for the most part, and it just was. Well, today that's just not the case. We've got strong field leaders like yourself and others out there in the BidPoint world. And, the potential today, you can't really compare the two. It would be like trying to compare which was better, the Model A Ford or a Maserati. Well, in the day, the Model A was the most unique, most magnificent thing out there. And 7 years ago, when myself and a handful of us were out there, we had the best thing going at the time. We were the company that made it 7 years as 3 companies were going under. We have companies coming to us all of the time because they just aren't built the way we're built. And all that to be said, today, you're not driving a Model A. I mean, you're driving a Maserati, and really the speed at which you grow your business is directly proportional to the number of conversations you have and the rate at which you want to put effort into it. Now, and I say that quite honestly, what I always loved about our business, Rick, is that this is a business that the way you get paid is through production. It's through client gathering. It's really dollars and cents for effort. There's no fluff. There's no hype. There's no upfront fees. There's none of that. It's dollars for effort. It's the true entrepreneurial way. Put a lot of effort in, create a lot of service for people, make a tremendous amount of money. I have a woman here in town, very part-time, been doing it for a while, named Karen, well in excess of $5,000 a month. Got a man here out of Pennsylvania named Jim, well in excess $3,000 or $4,000 or $5,000 a month. We've got a 75-year-old retiree named Tom out of Michigan, $4,000 a month in the natural gas alone. And all of these people, Rick, very, very part-time, and quite honestly, prior to mid-August, when we launched BidPoint, we weren't prepared or wanting explosive growth. We knew better. I've been in the industry of the networking world for a long, long time. We knew we only had one opportunity to create momentum, and we weren't trying to create momentum as the income stories, and I could give you 100 of them when they got started. We weren't trying to create teams, our businesses of multiple tens of thousands, because we weren't prepared. Well, now we are. We're prepared in all ways. We're prepared in the technology for explosive growth. We're prepared in the service, which offering best pricing in all deregulated markets. We're prepared, more importantly, in field leadership. Got some strong people in and strong people coming. We've got strong stories. We've got strong marketing. We've got strong web presence. So today, we're not only ready, but it's happening. We've gone through some numbers, Rick, and you guys have eclipsed what we did in, the first couple of months, what we did in several months. And, the numbers, the explosion possibilities with BidPoint are so much greater because there's no more hope here, Rick. This is not a dream anymore. I mean, we've got a factual business with a 91% retention rate. We've got people that are literally around the globe that have looked at our finances that have, validated what we do here. So really the only variable is the individual that comes forward and says, I'm here, I want to build a business, I want to build a business in commercial energy. And oh yeah, by the way, these additional products that are being offered now, absolutely fantastic. I'm not going to go into detail of the products, and if you're new here, get with the person who invited you, but the ancillary products, quite honestly, they make our energy products stronger than ever. It puts us now in the availability of every state for the most part. It's only the beginning with a trifecta that we're in the process of creating, and it's really one of those things to where now it's not if, it's not hopefully, it's not I have to do this to gain that. It's all about effort. And the people that are putting the effort in, Rick, as you've seen already, I know you're going to congratulate a few people. The people that are putting the effort in the first 90 days here at BidPoint, I mean, their checks are substantial, and the future is bright. So, Rick, I could go on and on. I appreciate the opportunity to share with you today. 12 months from today, I don't know. I mean, there could be 10,000 people in this thing, and it won't surprise me at all if we go through that type of explosive growth. It won't surprise me at all when I'm signing the first $100,000 a month check. That won't be a surprise because, quite honestly, it's just going to be the end result of planning that we've had from day one. And, good plans, when you work a good plan, the income is inevitable, and at this point, that's where we are. So, Rick, thanks for having me on the call. I look forward to
I appreciate
really
it, Joe, and it's obviously
2017.
Thank you. It's important to recognize that you did start from scratch, and you did start it organically, and put a system together. And as you know, I've been around the industry, and we've worked together for years. But I've been out with other energy companies and some Fortune 500 companies putting together sales channels and those kinds of things. And the system that we have here with energy is unique in the industry, and that's not to be overlooked. And because it's a seamless system and it goes faster, that makes it faster to put money in people's pockets. And then our services to be able to offer a nationwide offering, waste and recycling with NTC, an Inc. 500 company in their own right, with their base of operations, and some things that we have coming down the road, all fit the same model. It's customers under contract. It's long-term residual income. It's offering something unique, and it's pricing for business owners to the marketplace. And we're looking for people that want to build a business, that want to have conversations with business people, and want to leverage their connections. But more importantly, leverage those connections while bringing something to the party that offers value to the client. So we know with certainty, what you guys have turned Avion into, from scratch to several thousand clients, that's even more customers, a lot of people building successful businesses. And what we've done here at BidPoint, myself and Mike Healy and Monty Bertrand, and just to let people know, these are people that I had hired as consultants at a previous company. So everybody that's working together here, there's really some great resumes and people with some expertise. I do want to mention two people in particular, Mike Moore here in Georgia and Mike McLean in Pennsylvania, for ranking up to that higher commission level on some of the things that they've done. And I also want to mention that our most recent waste and recycle client, just to give you an idea, this was a 2-location company here in Georgia, and they had over 35% cost savings to the customer. And then when you include the commission paid back, because the customer was actually was also a BidPoint agent. So on top of the savings that they had commission on top of that, which took the cost that they were paying for energy down, for waste and recycling down by 44%. And to realize what that means, on a relatively small business, 2 locations, over the course of time of that contract, they're going to realize a savings of $41,000. That's something, and that's on the smaller scale of things, Joe. So, and we're talking to some much larger outfits and some some nationwide publicly traded companies and those kinds of things. And when the reports come in on those, we're going to see something special there. So we move from we've got in an established and mature business, we feel like we have the best system for best pricing, and that's been demonstrated. And as Joe talked about, and then as we move to waste and recycling, getting us to nationwide and filling in the gaps across our map, showing because it's an emerging market, there tends to be more savings. There's a little bit more complexity to it, but that's not on the agent, that's on the other side. So that's kind of in the middle ground, and we have something coming that's truly disruptive that still fits that same model of residual income, contracted pricing, and offering best value in the marketplace. So we feel we're at the very front end of what's going to happen here, and but with the stability behind us of a company that's shown year-over-year growth over 7 years, a 91% retention rate, and a patent pending system that's only going to develop even further, which will give you leverage, because nobody wants to spend 8 hours in a day putting a deal together. We're talking about spending 8 minutes the way we've got this put together on both sides of that equation. So you can leverage this. It doesn't affect what you currently do, and build it to where it's all you do. We like to tell people let's get you to where you're making $1,000 a month, and let's get you to making $1,000 a week, and you can probably do that personally, and then start adding a team to it and get yourself to making $1,000 a day. So those are things that can and have happened in this industry. It's already happening to people in this company, and so I want to thank everybody for being on this call today, and in particular Joe Mediga, the founder of Avion Energy. And we'll have more exciting news coming as the month progresses. There's a big planning meeting going on for Avion Energy corporately, and everybody's coming into Atlanta to refine some things. You'll be seeing some news coming out of that and some promotions and those kinds of things, and to kind of help kickstart your year here. We're very excited about what's happening. We're really tickled. We launched BidPoint August 12th, and so much has happened in this company since then. And as Joe mentioned, we're growing at a much faster rate than Avion was at the time, primarily because Avion's got their systems put together. And then we launched Waste and Recycling on November 15th, and that's starting to bear fruit. We're seeing savings across the board on the client base. And if you're showing savings, you're going to show income. And then the next step to come, and you'll be hearing about it soon. But Joe, wouldn't you agree that because we're multiplying the opportunity, what's already happening is people are getting to the money faster, and so it's a lot more realistic to make something happen in a few months here than it probably was 7 years ago, right? And
yeah, Rick. Yeah, there's no question about that, Rick. It's one of those things to where somebody comes here and really decides that this is what they want to do, getting into that, multiple thousands of dollars a month. If they only had energy, they could do it. But now, with NTC on board, it just, the possibilities are just that much faster. And quite honestly, I have two goals in my life, and that my very first primary goal, I always mention it about my kids and their college and all of that, and why that was always so important for me, Rick, is that because if I'm not thinking about college education 20 years down the road, I'm certainly not thinking about paying my bills today. You know what I mean? And I am blessed to say I am there today because of Avion. My second goal in life, and it's been this way for 30 years, was to create an organization that anybody, and I don't care who they are, I don't care if they're sophisticated entrepreneur, sophisticated networker, or a blue-collar worker who's just hard worker, could come here and could build any income level they want. And now, we have that system in place. My ultimate goals will be met when I see thousands and thousands of people who are making thousands and thousands of dollars a month. And it's not happening by accident. It's happening based on the plan. And again, those of you that know how important it is to have a structure, especially when you're starting a business and you work the structure, that's exactly what we've done. Now, some of these things that are coming on, like who could have, Rick, we couldn't have, if we were drawing it up as the perfect add-on product 12 months ago, we couldn't have designed NTC to come to us. You know what I mean? It's such a perfect addition to what we're doing here. And the new product, I can hardly wait to start talking about it, and I know we can't yet, so I have to just close my mouth about it. But the other thing that we're doing, again, it just fits, and it fits so well. So for that person who's out there, who's serious, and this is a business, but who's really serious about making a difference for their lives, getting to multiple thousands of dollars a month. It really now, it's a doable thing even faster because we've got the two services.
Well, Joe, once again, I want to thank you for sharing today, and I want to congratulate everybody that have already made the decision to be here in 2016 as an early adopter, and 2017, is here upon us, and we're excited about the fact that you can be here at the beginning as we put this together. But it's functioning, it's running smoothly, it's everything we had hoped it would be, and we're excited about the collective future for all of us. So hope everybody has an awesome day and an awesome week, and we'll be back with more news on Thursday. Stay tuned. Thank you again, Joe, and thank you to everyone out there in the BidPoint community. Have a great day.